And all the people being like, well, aspartame causes cancer. No, it doesn't. Shut your mouths.
Calm down, is relaxation. Chill out. Stop screaming.
Today's video is brought to you by HelloFresh. More on them in just a bit. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Brain Blaze. I, as always, am Simon. Welcome to the show. Joining you on a cold and chilly winter's Monday morning. Oh, I like my job. But sometimes when it's like Monday morning, you got to go to the office and record some videos. You're like, oh, I don't want to. I'm not feeling the energy. So I got to hype myself up. Let's go. Danny writes it. I read it. Sam edits it. Oh, God, it's going to be one of those weeks, I tell you. I'm also finishing the week early because I'm off to the UK to visit my family with my family. Like my extended family, not my parents and with my family and my 2 kids on a plane. Love it. I don't really like to burst anybody's bubble, so when my fellow employee Nigel Gloop came proudly bouncing over to join me behind the counter of a South Yorkshire branch of Global Video in the early noughties, there was no way I was ever going to voice any cynicism over the magnificent life achievement he was about to share with me. I should point out that Nigel Gloop wasn't his real name. What? Gloop wasn't his real name? What's that nonsense that alleged nonsense? Nah, in my opinion, it's nonsense. Like, yo, Gwyneth Paltrow, what are you up to with goop.com? What is that Stop it. It's bizarre. I've changed it partly to protect him from embarrassment, but largely because I can't remember his real name. Nigel Gloop's cheeks were flushed with pride as he revealed that he had just made history down at his local Weight Watchers club. Weight Watchers is the bizarre one where they're just like, yeah, this is a diet where you can have milkshakes. It's like, all right, it sounds a bit weird, but okay. I guess it's because you're like eating the milkshake instead of food, which I don't know. It strikes me as a bit bizarre, but whatever.
I drink your milkshake. I drink it up!
He was the first person to ever be named Slimmer of the Year for 2 consecutive years. I didn't have the heart to suggest that something must have gone terribly wrong in between winning those 2 titles. Well, no, unless he was like massive, like absolutely massive. And then the next year he was still massive, just strike out the absolutely. I think you could win that legitimately, couldn't you? I mean, if you're winning it 4 years in a row, it's going to be like, are you still there, Nigel? I can't see you. And it's true to say that Nigel had visibly piled the pounds back on after winning the first time around. Oh, okay, I see what this is. This is about diets, right? This whole episode. So it's like, yeah, if you just... It's the yo-yoing, right? You've got to find something that you can stick with. I tried that diet where you're not supposed to eat like sugars, carbohydrates. It was horrible. After like a week, I just felt like fucking miserable. I was like, I'm having some fucking French fries. What I find works for me, which no one else is interested in, but like I didn't really gain any weight at all until I got into my like mid-30s. And then I was like, oh, look, I can put on weight now. Well, I find I just don't eat. Like, I just, it's like 10:38. I haven't had anything to eat today. I've had 2 cups of black coffee. I won't have anything to eat until around 2. I'll have a snack, and then I'll get home and have a big dinner. And either way, like, even if I have like a big unhealthy dinner, I'm still never going to like crack the amount of calories I need. So that just works, and then I get to enjoy myself once a day, and the rest of the day just work. It's not a problem. Just, I don't know, that works for me. Well, maybe some like a mate of mine is on that carbohydrate diet, the non-carbohydrate diet, and it totally works for him, and he's just like, I don't miss, like, carbohydrates. And I'm like, bro, how do you not? They're just like, all of the good food is made out of carbohydrates. Everything good, like, name a food that's tasty and is made out of carbohydrates.
No, sir, I don't like it.
He didn't seem to realise that Slimmer of the Year is not a title you're supposed to vigorously defend every year from pretenders to the throne, but Nigel Gloop's problem was that instead of making sensible long-term changes to his diet and his lifestyle, he preferred to chase the latest diet fad which promised a quick fix to losing loads of weight over a short period with minimal effort. And even if the strict temporary diets worked for a while, he was only destined to revert back to his old ways and gain all the weight back, once it felt that the diet had run its course. Yeah, you gotta, like, anything where it's too extreme, like, I'll try and take up stuff and I'll go too extreme into it, and then I'll be like, it's not working, so I'll give up. You just gotta be, like, super gentle. Just, like, every day, just do a little bit, do a little bit, do a little bit, and then before you know it, boom! You're running a YouTube empire, aren't you? No, it's also quite a bit of work, to be honest. It was more than just like a little bit. Now I work much less. I'll tell you, it's strange. Like, I do more channels, but I definitely work less than I used to. Because I feel like getting established is kind of one of the hardest parts. And then once you got that, it's just like you just keep pushing that train, killing all my pretenders. I don't kill anyone, I'm just joking. I kill them with kindness. I don't even know what that means.
And I hope he dies of the incurable condition of being a little bitch.
It transpires that Nigel was just the latest in a long line of gloops to have gone through this yo-yo pattern of weight cycling over the centuries after investing all of their faith in the latest fad. But these fads might be growing of a stranger as the years turn. Some of the more recent gloop family members have embraced strategies which are even harder to swallow than those historical gloops from a supposedly less enlightened era. Tell me what you're talking about. Why did you make this into some big historical analogy? It didn't really feel necessary, but okay. Maybe it's just my Monday morning brain being like, there's depths to Daddy's writing, and I'm just like, boop, 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 boop. Someone was like, you missed all the puns in one episode, and I'm like, I know, I'm sorry. I have a small brain. Stop small brain shaming me. The vinegar diet. Delving way back into the Gloop family tree, Phileas Gloop was knocking... Oh my god, is this historical analogy going to continue through the entire video, Danny? Because holy shit. And would almost certainly have latched on to one of the first ever diet fads, which was brought to the table by Lord Byron in around 1806. Lord Byron was an early example of a celebrity influencer who could have been raking in a fortune if only Instagram had been invented back then. He still did alright though. Now regarded as one of the greatest English poets in history, Byron was a leading figure of the Romantic movement. He was also known for his dashing good looks, his hedonistic lifestyle, and his string of often scandalous relationships, frequently mobbed by adoring fans when he went a-roving. Byron was a contender for the most influential person in Europe during his day, which is a pity as he proved to be a bad influence when he unwittingly and carelessly composed a contemporaneous culinary craze with comparatively calamitous consequences. Danny always thinks he's going to put all the letters the same. He's going to alliterate the shit out of a sentence and he thinks he's going to challenge me. And it doesn't. That was first take, bitch. Sorry, Danny, I didn't mean to call you a bitch. It just slipped out. I don't know why. I'm sorry, Danny. I love you.
That's a little gay. Hold on.
Lord Byron's problem was that he had work. Now there's a completely regular sentence and I can't even read it. Why was my brain is so small? Lord Byron's problem was that he had to work hard on keeping that dashing figure. The poet himself lamented that he had a morbid propensity to fatten, but his unhealthy solution was to embark upon strict diets which bordered on starvation before going on mad food binges after he shed a few pounds. One friend noted at the time that Byron go hungry for days before serving himself a horrid mess of cold potatoes deluged in vinegar and gobbling it up like a famished dog. What the fuck? At least in my example, when I don't eat all day and I have a tasty dinner, I actually have something tasty rather than what's that? No, I'm so hungry, I'm just eating the potatoes in vinegar. Oh, for God's sake. Lord Byron, what are you up to? Jesus, you smoke meth or something? Byron would often stave off hunger by chain-smoking cigars, drinking copious amounts of apple cider vinegar and drenching the very same stuff over meager meals of potatoes or hard biscuits. He believed that vinegar would cleanse his body and help curb his ravenous appetite. It appeared to work for him on some level, possibly because you're far less likely to finish off your meal when everything is bobbing around in puddles of vinegar. And it's true that there are certain benefits to adding apple cider vinegar to your diet, as it can potentially improve insulin sensitivity and reduce cravings, carbohydrates and sugar. Danny, it sounds like Lord Byron has cracked it. This is the diet I'm going on. This, like, it's intermittent fasting or whatever they call it. I'm just going to go on the apple cider vinegar and cold potatoes diet because... No, I'm not doing that. That's a lie. That sounds horrible, Byron. What are you smoking? Oh, we already established that. Cigars. And meth. Meth-laced cigars.
Is that what you smoke?
But splashing the highly acidic stuff over every woeful meal or just glugging it straight from the bottle is taking the diet to an extreme level which can lead to nausea, vomiting, erosion of teeth enamel, and the sensation that your throat has caught on fire. I don't know, I don't think I've ever, drank apple cider vinegar direct from a bottle. That sounds horrible.
It is shit, Austin.
However, it's not surprising that Byron's health was taken to such extremes, as he was most likely suffering from extreme body dysmorphia in the form of anorexia and bulimia. The concern was that his youthful and impressionable devoted followers were keen to emulate the fragile poet's gaunt and haunted look by taking note of his menu and embracing the extreme vinegar diet. It's like... Wow, Byron, so sexy, so gaunt. Oh, Byron, you do it for me with your hollow cheeks and your sunken eyes and your emaciated body. Tell it to me, Byron. Whisper those sweet nothings to me, Byron. If you can, through your ruined voice.
Are you challenging me?
A prominent doctor of the era publicly observed, our young ladies live all their growing girlhood in semi-starvation in fear of incurring the horror of disciples of Lord Byron. The poet himself could have perhaps done more to dissuade his army of fans from overdosing on condiment, but he preferred to advise women on how to eat in public. He once declared, a woman should never be seen eating or drinking unless it be lobster salad and champagne, the only truly feminine and becoming viands. Let's just hope the feminine lobster is allowed to be practically swimming in an ocean of yummy acetic acid. Yeah, what the f*** are you up to, Byron? Weirdo. So let me interrupt today's video to tell you about today's wonderful sponsor, HelloFresh. Look, the holidays, they're just around the corner, and HelloFresh makes this busy time of year easier than ever with what? Chef-crafted recipes and pre-portioned ingredients delivered right to your door so you can spend less time meal planning and prepping. I don't know, like, holidays are always busy, right? And since I've had kids, it's like, oh my God. There is no time for anything. I'm busy at work because it's holidays, you know. This is what I do. Gets busy. I'm busy at home because you got like trips and stuff to plan out. The last thing you want to do is get home and be like, oh God, I got to prepare dinner for everybody. Why? I haven't been to the store. Oh God. No, HelloFresh, they make it all easy. What was that? What was that, HelloFresh? Pre-portioned ingredients? What was that? Delivered right to your door. That's right. Could you imagine anything more convenient? Well, there's takeout, but what takeout's expensive? And it's almost always unhealthy. You're like, yeah, I'm definitely going to get some healthy takeout. I don't know, I browse through those apps. You're like, yeah, what shall I get? Something healthy. Like kebab. Never works. Pizza. Never works out. HelloFresh, what do they got? Cowboy turkey, black bean chili, mushroom ravioli with kale and walnuts, or sweet corn and green pepper chowder. Does sound like sweet and sour, but it's not. It's sweet corn and green pepper chowder. I love green peppers. Green peppers are the best of the peppers. I think they're the same as regular peppers. They're just at a different point of ripeness or something. I think I read that in like one of those fact things the other day. Maybe it was on like YouTube Shorts. It was like, hello. Okay. But I love those. Irrelevance. Let's move on. 25% less expensive than takeout, by the way. And also, look, they've got 35 weekly recipes, so there's something to please everyone. If you didn't like the examples I gave, although how can you not like sweet corn and green pepper chowder? If you don't like those, there's plenty of other stuff to choose from, so you'll always be fine. Or you can upgrade to choice proteins. You can even add protein to a veggie meal. I imagine that is like, what do you add into that veggie meal? Chicken. Look, HelloFresh is the best way to go. It's what you should do this holiday season. If you haven't tried out HelloFresh now's the perfect opportunity. Why is that? Oh, that's because, look, what can you get? You can go to HelloFresh.com and you can use my code BRAIN70 for 70% off plus free shipping. That's amazing. HelloFresh.com. Use code BRAIN70 for 70% off plus free shipping. Thank you, HelloFresh. Check it out, and now back to today's video. The reducing soap diet. The good news for Florence Gloop is that she was fortunate enough to be alive over a century later when the miracles of science had led us into a new world in which we were no longer having to watch what we shoved in our mouths in order to lose weight. Oh, thank God, what is this magical diet that I need? One day they will invent a pill, right? And it'll just be like, yeah, pop this pill just before you smash like a bucket of KFC. And it'll stop your body from absorbing all of the fat and stuff from it. And you'll just like poo out like a chicken drumstick. Fuck yeah! I mean, obviously not a whole because you mashed it up with your little teeth. But yeah, I can't wait for that. I'll be all over that. People will be like, oh, it's not natural. I'll be like, oh, fuck natural. You know what's also great? Coke Zero. There's nothing natural about that. But you know what it doesn't contain? Like 30% sugar. Obviously. And all the people being like, well, aspartame causes cancer. No, it doesn't. Shut your mouths.
Calm down, is relaxation. Chill out. Stop screaming.
By the year 1909, people could literally just wash away those surplus pounds with fat-reducing soap. Yes, the likes of Florence Gloop could finally put down that damn vinegar bottle and choose instead from a range of obesity soaps which proudly sailed under such glorious names as Fat Off and Fat Oh No. Yeah, this is like back in the day, though, where it would be like non-addictive heroin, and companies could just say whatever they wanted because there was no like advertising standards authority or whatever. There weren't actually people checking up to make sure that the did what they said. The past, man. What the fuck? Non-addictive heroin. Fat off. Yeah, it's just like you're taking a shower and there's just globs of fat coming through your skin and being washed down the sink, which is kind of disgusting in a way. And not in a way, it's just disgusting. Dr. Bouchard's fat-reducing soap was an early US version. The print adverts claimed that their specially compounded flesh-reducing soap gave new life to limp muscles lost in unhealthy flabbiness. Later on in the UK, Lamar-reducing soap made even bolder claims in the 1920s over their bars of soap, which helped you wash away fat and wrinkles. Oh wow, forget Botox. Just use that. It makes you thin and young. Why not just be like, and it leads to immortality. Why not? Just, if you can lie, you may as well go full bore. Quote, no dieting or exercising, be as slim as you wish. Act like magic in reducing double chin, abdomen, ungainly ankle, unbecoming wrists, large busts, or any superfluous fat on the body. As if they weren't taking the piss quite enough, Lamar also sold an accompanying reducing brush, as you clearly weren't going to lose much fat if you're just scrubbing your beer belly with the wrong kind of bristles. If you're not yet convinced, the inventor of Fat Off brand gave a curious origin story in one of the product's adverts printed in 1912. I, Mary Spencer, board and under oath, say that less than 6 years ago, I was a monstrosity with fat and rheumatism, and I weighed over 225 pounds. My lower limbs had atrophied. I was a monstrosity. Children would cower in fear because I was fat. Holy shit, Mary. I had tried every known remedy to reduce my fat without any success whatsoever until I found this wonderful Fat Off. I cannot say I discovered it. It was an inspiration. Now, at this point in the script, I've just flicked over to my notes and found an instruction to myself which reads, explain why fat-reducing soap doesn't work. I'm not sure what I was thinking when I scribbled that down. I don't need to explain this, do I? The so-called fat-fighting bars of soap sadly contained ingredients no more magical than soap, water, and maybe a hint of coconut fragrance if they were lucky. In fact, Fat Off brand was labelled an unmitigated fraud by chemists. Shocking, we know. And it was later banned from advertising in 1926 after the American Medical Association got itself into a lather and described the product as unadulterated hokum. So, we'll never know how Mary Spencer Borden really slimmed down after evolving into a self-proclaimed atrophied monstrosity. I can only assume she was secretly back on the vinegar bottle. The infinite cabbage soup diet. Nobody seems to want to take credit for inventing the infinite soup diet, although it first became popular among celebrities during the 1950s and has made several comebacks in later years thanks to associations with Dolly Parton in the 1980s and Sarah Michelle Gellar in the 90s. Buffy the Vampire Slayer! In fact, the popularity of the diet seems to boil over at least once every decade whenever a contemporary celebrity mentions that they've gone down this dark, leafy path. Is this just going to be one of those diets where it's like, yeah, you can eat as much as you want as long as it's like soup? This, like, what was it? Celery soup or whatever? Cabbage? Who cares? It's like a friend of mine was like, he was on this diet. I think it was from that. I'm probably going to get this wrong, but I think it was that Penn guy from Penn and Teller was on this diet. And it was just like, yeah, the diet was you could eat potatoes. You could choose one food and that's all you can eat. You can prepare it however you want. You can have, if it's potatoes, you can have fries, you can have boiled potatoes, you can have whatever, but it has to be potatoes, like your one food of choice. And my friend went on this diet. I think it lasted like a week, and then it was like, fuck this, I'm out. It's like an example of just unsustainable. No one can live off potatoes forever. You will literally die. I wonder if you could live off potatoes. What was that guy in The Martian? He was living on potatoes, wasn't he? Oh no, he had the nutritional supplements as well, which I feel like is kind of necessary if your diet is potatoes.
I have potato blood in my veins. My life, it's potato.
It's also known as the Sacred Heart diet, the military cabbage diet, the Russian peasant diet. And whilst it's never really known as the infinite cabbage soup diet, I might have made that up, the encouraging benefit to the diet is that you can supposedly eat as much homemade cabbage soup as you jolly well like. Just not much of anything else, if anything at all. Exactly. Some of the more sensible variations suggest gradually adding a couple of other occasional ingredients to the diet after a few days, including bananas, veggies, a baked potato, and maybe even a bit of lean meat by about day 12. But the principal idea is that you can gorge yourself on little else but cabbage soup and watch in amazement as you drop between 10 to 15 pounds every week. And of course, it works. When George Gloop embraced the health benefits of regular cabbage soup packed with fibre and vitamin C, he came out the other end half the man he used to be. But you're not going to get much in the way of protein or nutrients or healthy fats if you give yourself exclusively to the cabbage. It'd be like, yes, you need other things to live, guys. You can't just have that. It's not enough. It's basic biology. Come on. Any weight you do lose will be water and muscle rather than body fat, and this is a common problem with many fad diets, which recommend that you cut out entire food groups for a limited period. This lack of diversity is not healthy for our bodies. We need to be thinking about a highly balanced, long-term, nutrient-dense menu instead of just thinking that we'll be alright if we only eat rhubarb stalks for a month. The lack of calories in a cabbage soup diet can lead to dizziness, nausea, and a complete lack of energy. And unless you plan to spend the rest of your life in bland cabbage misery, this is only ever going to be a short-term strategy, after which you'll be heading straight back to the cake cupboard to deal with all those intense sugar cravings that you endured while feebly picking up your spoon of doom. Yeah, that sounds miserable, to be honest. Like, this is the worst one so far. I mean, the fat off obviously doesn't work, but like in terms of diets, no. Just one thing, oh god. You'd get sick of it after like 3 days, and then you'd never do it again. It's just a waste of time. Don't do it. Oh, and the large intake of fiber will almost certainly lead to chronic flatulence.
Was that a fart?
George Gloop may have shed loads of weight on the cabbage soup diet, but he sadly didn't have any friends left to help him celebrate. Oh, because he was so smelly. Oh no. The Sleeping Beauty diet. Here's a bit of logic that you can't argue with. Unless you're particularly clever, like this guy, it's not possible to stuff your face when you're asleep. So why even risk getting out of bed and succumbing to the wicked temptations of the pantry? Oh my god, there's this like, how are we going to lose weight? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to put you in a medically induced coma, and we're not going to attach one of those food drips to you until you're thin. I mean, it's going to be very effective. Just stay in bed for as long as possible and wake up thin. How hard can it be? It's certainly true that a good night's sleep helps you lose weight. If you don't get enough rest, you'll more than likely crave sugar and caffeine the next day to help top up your energy levels. This is why I always end up craving donuts and candy floss for breakfast, as it's impossible to get much quality kip when Sam is constantly shrieking about He-Man and excessively long videos in his sleep. Classic Sam, trapped in the basement with Danny.
Joke's on you, I'm into that shit!
In his 2011 book, The Sleep Doctor's Diet Plan, Dr. Michael Bruce suggests that you need to avoid alcohol and caffeine 7 hours before bedtime. Holy shit. That's the only time I drink alcohol. And instead engage in 4 hours of exercise at the end of the day. Dude, who lives this life? Who's like, okay, my bedtime's 10 o'clock, 6 o'clock. Get on that exercise train. What are you talking about? Sure, maybe it's good, but it's also insane. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to eat a large meal, sit in front of the telly, and then have a glass of whiskey before I go to bed. All right? Which, funnily enough, is the exact opposite to what most sane people do. It sounds a bit extreme to me, but it can get even more extreme and indeed quite sinister, okay? The inspiration for the Sleeping Beauty diet can be found in the pages of the best-selling 1966 novel The Valley of the Dolls by Jacqueline Suzanne, in which the overweight protagonists check into sleep clinics, where they are heavily sedated for weeks in a bid to stop eating. Oh my god, I was not wrong. Holy shit about the coma thing. Sadly, it's a concept which escaped the confines of a fictional novel. By the 1970s, it was reported that young women were using sedatives as a weight loss aid, knocking back the sleeping pills with the intention of snoozing for up to 20 hours a day. Why not just eat in the 4-hour window? That's what I kind of like. Sometimes I'll do that as well. Just eat within that 4 hour, or like the minimum I do is like a 6-hour window. So I'll like 2 o'clock, I'll have that snack, and then I won't eat after 8, like 6-hour window. But sometimes 4, I could do 4. Why? It's not that hard. Just don't think about eating. I guess that's the problem, right? I guess it depends like how gluttonous you are. And it's not even a concept which was confined to the silly 1970s. Thanks to the rise of the internet and easily accessible pro-anorexia blogs, this form of disordered eating is still worryingly touted as a potential slimming strategy today, and it's not a good idea. For starters, hiding away in bed all day in fear of facing the world is likely to lead to complete social isolation and depression. Even if you do lose weight, you're doing it at the expense of your entire waking existence, which kind of misses the point as to why you're doing it. You're not likely to lose much weight anyway, unless you're a particularly fidgety sleeper. You won't be moving around and burning off any calories. Instead, your metabolism will slow right down and you'll feel hungrier than ever during those few waking hours, which you're more likely to spend binge eating.
Oh shit, here we go again.
More importantly, if you're regularly knocking back sedatives to stay knocked out as long as possible, you may find yourself regularly upping the dosage to get the desired effect, leading to a spiral of addiction and potentially a tragic overdose. Yet there is nothing good about this. This is the worst one so far, and it's bad. Don't be popping sleeping pills so you can sleep and not be hungry. That's mental. Apparently, Elvis Presley was rumored to have tried out the Sleeping Beauty diet during the 1970s when he was finding it a bit more difficult to squeeze into his signature white jumpsuits. I couldn't dig up a verified source on this, but the story goes that a dodgy Las Vegas doctor recommended the idea to Elvis, who agreed to be put into a medically induced coma for several days. Dude, I was right, and it happened to Elvis. The king eventually woke up after falling out of bed and vowed never to embark upon such a rigorous diet ever again. A ridiculous diet. Sorry, wait, he fell out of bed and that woke him up from his coma? Hospitals, what are you doing? There's like someone in a coma, just roll them out of the bed. They'll be fine. Before they hit the floor, they'll be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Oh my God. Why is my body so old? How long have I been out? 26 years. Oh, how did you wake me up? How'd you do it, Doc? And it's like, well, we heard about this thing on Brain Blaze. We just started rolling people out of bed. Boom. Comas solved. You're welcome, world. He may have become a wiser and more cautious soul after these events, but the Elvis Presley Ultimate Slimming Guide would still have been unlikely to fly off the bookshelves. The baby food diet. When Nigel Gloop's daughter Chelsea recently began to enter a cycle of bad diets, she at least had the opportunity to learn from the mistakes of history and consider more sensible strategies than drinking vinegar or magically washing away the fat with soap. Good for Chelsea Gloop. No, scrap that. The 23-year-old Chelsea is currently munching away on baby food. This is another one of those dire fads which nobody wants to take the credit. I've actually heard of this one for some reason. It's often wrongly considered to be the brainchild of Hollywood trainer Tracy Anderson, who did indeed recommend the option in 2011 and is alleged to have passed on the hot tip to a roster of clients, which at the time included Jennifer Aniston, Lady Gaga, and Gwyneth Paltrow.
And that I do not forgive.
The latter of whom probably didn't need much encouragement to embrace a batshit crazy concept. Danny, preach! But Tracy Anderson later distanced herself from the diet, and most of the celebrity names attached to the baby cleanse also seemed to laugh off the suggestion. When questioned about it by People magazine, Jennifer Aniston was proud to reveal, "I've been on solids for about 40 years now." That's a good joke, I like that. The concept has actually been around since at least the 1980s, and while celebrity names are reticent to endorse it, plenty of dieters still giving it a go today. You replace your snacks with occasional main meals with up to 14 jars of baby food every day, with the idea being that the low-calorie, nutrient-rich jars of pureed peas and carrots will produce that waistline in no time, while cleansing your system and breaking your unhealthier snacking options. How is baby food cleansing your system? This cleansing of the system just seems like bullshit to me. One touted advantage of the diet is that the government is super strict about what kind of stuff is allowed in baby food, so you can at least feel reasonably confident that you're not going to consume anything poisonous. How about you just cook food? Why is it so hard to cook food? You know what's in when you cook food, you know what's in it, because you're like, there's a carrot, it's a piece of chicken. Big brains, come on, you can do it. But this is somewhat outweighed by the numerous disadvantages of a grown-up human snacking regularly on pureed mush instead of intended for tiny babies. For starters, it's going to taste so revolting that it's enough to make the cabbage soup seem like a gourmet treat. New York diet tester Liz Neparent lasted just one day on the baby cleanse, concluding that she never wanted to touch that cat food muck ever again, whilst also observing that the food had run through her system faster than an Olympic sprinter. Oh, rough. Baby food doesn't come cheap either, particularly when you're forking out 14 jars of the stuff every day. Yeah, I tell you that shit. I go to generally my wife orders all the shit online, but sometimes she'll be like, oh, we're out of this. And I'll go to the store and I'll be like, why is it £3? Or the equivalent for a tiny little jar. What's going on? It's like this big. What does it contain? Literally just carrots mushed up. Baby food, man. And my wife's also like, don't get the cheap one. I'm like, why can't I get the cheap one? Why do I have to get the fancy one? It's all the same. She says, it's not the same. I mean, it literally is. Literally is. And then I buy the expensive one because I just don't want to get in an argument about it.
You're goddamn right.
But the biggest problem is that it again comes pretty close to a starvation diet. Baby food was designed specifically for underdeveloped digestive systems, and it doesn't come anywhere close to providing the protein, fat, fiber, and nourishment required to sustain a healthy, well-balanced adult diet. And whilst Chelsea Gloop may indeed have shed a little weight, it's no surprise that she piled it all back on after reaching the end of a completely unsustainable fad diet. Still, I've heard a rumor that Chelsea has just made history by winning Slimmer of the Year for the third consecutive year. Down a Weight Watchers, yes! Eat your heart out, Nigel Gloop. Thank you, Danny. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, me. And most importantly, No, I'm just kidding. Why would you be the most important? Oh, because you watch it! Legend, thank you. Smash that like button. Maybe it's just my Monday morning brain being like, there's depths to Daddy's writing, and I'm just like, boop, 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 boop.